Shine your light on me. No. Dude, I love how I have to literally take sulforaphane. I mean, like, soda water has some wax, something on the lining. God only knows what. But I love how I have to, like, dose myself so I don't get poisoned. You know? Like, you have to be on sulforaphane or you're just getting poisoned. It's literally everywhere. The chemicals are everywhere. Now, I'm going to try doing my rant in this direction because it plays better on TikTok. So, we'll see. Saw Kamala Harris's husband on, unfortunately, and I gotta figure out how to do this better, man. This is a experiment. I'm taking Broccolene Pro. It's a new line that we're launching in natural doctor offices, NDs, naturopathic doctors, and it's much stronger, or I should say, it's got much more sulforaphane in it. And I am experimenting with using seltzer because the bubbles and it's acidic as hell. I don't know if you all know that. Seltzer, soda water, is like more acidic than fruit juice when I tested it with my pH pen. I love how I have to do everything myself. It's kind of crazy. Once you actually get into a space where you're able to get it done, get shit done, launch the thing, make the thing, you know, see the path to success, because you're on the path, you feel the path. You have to do everything when you're launching something new. People talk about it, but it's literally true because you don't know what to do. It needs to be figured out. And so you can't delegate it to anybody. I could have 10 people in a room with me, you know, maybe now, finally, but when you don't know what to do, the person leading the charge, the founder, has to figure it out. So, you know, you think, oh, go sell, go do this, go do that. No one knows what the path to selling the new thing, making the new thing, fixing the new thing, you know, all this stuff about this new thing, except for the people through which the idea flows. It's a very strange phenomenon. And now that I'm doing everything, I'm like making the product better. I'm doing formulation. I'm doing, of course, finance. I'm raising money. I am marketing, selling, shipping, packing, you know, everything that has to do with marketing. I'm finally, because I have to, hiring a couple freelance programmers to help me with some stuff that I am very excited about. No idea how it's going to go. How do I say this? I have no idea when it's going to work, but I'm certain that eventually it'll work amazingly. And I know that if I had resources, it would, you know, the opportunities are just waiting to be executed or capitalized on. But nobody knows, and no one's going to figure it out. It's so obtuse and niche, the route I took to find these markets. So now I'm drinking this stuff. I'm trying it out in soda water. I gotta put it in a cup though. Getting it in this damn thing, I keep forgetting. Like, I'm trying to figure out the way to do it. You have to chug a bunch so there's room because it bubbles. You can't get, you know, this part. The actual scoop doesn't fit well. It pools the powder on the top and then the bubbles come out. It's very unsightly. So I'm trying to make it smooth and seamless. They have this little shovel in the back, but if you don't have room to pour it in there, the bubbles get on the shovel and it mucks the whole thing up. So it seems like you gotta take a chug. You gotta chug a big swig. Take a big swig. Shovel 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 scoops in there, and then swirl it around, and then you let it sit. And it can get spicy. You gotta be careful. I'm having people take it who are on a standard American diet, pretty clean, but not biohacking. Like, if you're not being proactive, it's not enough to just not eat garbage in America, because you're getting everything is tainted, everything is contaminated, and the legal limits are so low that there's things in food that are like against the Geneva Convention. It's like insane. And everything else, we don't care if their food poisons you. What do you think we're going to care if the printer ink poisons you? Nobody gives a shit. You think people care if tire dust poisons you? Nobody gives a shit. That stuff could be like nuking our rivers, and America would not fucking know, because nobody, looks or cares about that. We don't care if you poison our soil. What do we care if you poison the air? We don't care if you poison our food, our water. What do we care if you, poison the workplace, right? So it's bad. It's real bad. When you start seeing the amount and volume of chemicals and how poisonous they are, it's astonishing. It's astonishing. And it's not good. Not good. And it's getting exponentially worse. It's just, the worst part in many ways is that it's accelerating such that we're finally noticing, but it's almost at the point of no return. Like, these chemicals could easily, if, I could easily see them dropping the birth rate in 2 or 3 generations to a catastrophically low level, beyond what we're expecting, because they compound exponentially, and many of them, it's a really bad situation. And I'm trying to keep it light and positive. Hey, we found the solution, sulforaphane. But I have to also educate people constantly about how bad the problem is, until they say, enough, okay, we get it. You listen to, what was her name? Dr. Patrick? If it ain't spicy, it ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? It's gotta be spicy. It's gotta be spicy. That's how you know it's working. Dr. Patrick, Rhonda Patrick, did an hour-long episode on microplastics. Just microplastics that we're ingesting. Like, just microplastics in our body. It's just one vector, one subset of chemicals. There's thousands more of chemicals and a dozen more ways they get into our body than microplastics. But just microplastics. She goes on for 45 minutes, and it's horrifying. People are going to be like, what the fuck? If you don't buy sulforaphane, because she talks about how sulforaphane is like the only supplement that can actually help. You got to detox. She's like, you got to get these things out of your body. You have to limit exposure, and you got to get them out of your body. So she talks about a couple of ways you can limit exposure, whole house filters, stuff like that. Obviously, remove, not touching anything you can do to not touch these things. Basically, she goes so far as to say avoiding printer receipts, because those things get through your skin so easily. She says, I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea. That added to the list of ways I'm being killed by our modern economy. And these chemicals, let me try to put it in a different way. The problems, the chemicals in our environment are so pervasive, they are causing over $4 trillion worth of damage every year. The chemicals in our environment, the chemicals in our bodies, are causing $4 trillion in damage every year in America alone. That's like the GDP of the entire continent of Africa, I believe. Someone look that up. That's a lot. And that's just America. You know, another way to think about it too is that we have 70% of our population is overweight or obese, and that's a combination of high calorie diet and obesogenic molecules. These obesogens are a subset of endocrine disruptors, and those are a subset of all these, you know, other poisonous chemicals. They include carcinogens and all sorts of stuff. And so these chemical toxins, these industrial pollutants, they there's so many of them, and if you just look at obesity and obesogens, America has, you know, 333 million. I think what is 50% of that is 150, 165. So another 20% is another 6600. What is that? 214 million. I'm just gonna guess. So somewhere north of 200 million ish. And globally, there's 1 billion people that have overweight or obesity, are overweight or obese, and that kind of gives you a sense of how many people these things are affecting. And again, if it's not obesogens in plastic, it's endocrine disruptors in food, it's, you know, microplastics in the water, it's pesticides in the air. Globally, everybody is being poisoned every day, and in 10 years it's enough to start fucking your shit up. Some people are so sensitive to it, and they're so overexposed that, you know, they're obese by the time they're 10. How many fat 10-year-olds, you know? Now, I used to get mad. I'm like, get away from me, obese person. I don't want your laziness to you know, infect me or something. I was just so antagonistic mentally, and my Christianity would come in and be like, forgive yourself, forgive them. But I would constantly find myself just like being mad and judgmental of these, like, you know, morbidly obese Americans. Like, America, dude, has a fatness that you just don't see anywhere else in the world. Fat billowing out, spilling out. It like makes no sense. People waddling. Their knees are about to like blow out. And you realize they're just poisoned. They're just overexposed. That's it. They're fucking polluted. And, you know, and the thing about these obesogens is they force overeating. They increase insatiation. And they divert calories to fat production, way over-index fat production before the brain can figure out what's going on. And by the way, I have a family of lunatics in the house. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I'm literally a stay-at-home dad launching a biopharma startup. I can't even think about it. It's too stressful. The problem is these chemicals short-circuit the brain, force the production of fat chemicals. BPA alone is like so good at doing this. They give it to rats to get them as fat as possible, as fast as possible. Plus a 60% fat diet of corn oil, and then plus they get the mice predisposed to obesity. So obesity causes overeating. You can get obesity from overeating, but not unless there's obesogens in the food and endocrine disruptors. Because normal food, no matter what it is, or even if it's empty calories, and you just eat a ton, like, how do I say this? If there's actual fat in the food you're eating, and you're eating a high-fat diet, you get full, you get satiated eventually. Because the fat. It's only when there's obesogens involved where the brain doesn't get all the calories that you're eating. Before it can register them, basically, they get put into long-term storage in fat, white adipose tissue. So the brain never sees the total amount of calories you're actually eating And the more obesogens, the more poisoning, the worse it is. And so the brain keeps asking you to eat more. You cannot eat enough if you have too much obesogens in your system. And so it's this vicious spiral. And that's how people are getting comically obese. And I feel bad for people because when you get around them, they do have such a negative aura. And you realize, duh, dude, they're depressed. They're morbidly obese. They can't stop. They're starving all the time. Dieting doesn't work. They don't have the energy now to like exercise vigorously. They can't fast. Their brain is lashing out and starving. When they calorie constrict, they are like, their brain thinks they're like dying. And then the amount of calories they have to eat, basically, and in America, my God, if you're hungry, if you're starving and you can't wait for food, so you have to get something quickly, or you don't have time, or you don't have money, and most people in America are two of those three things. The convenient thing that's affordable in front of you that won't take more than an hour to get and eat is garbage. Is full of glyphosates, herbicides, pesticides, pesticides, fertilizers from cheap factory farms. It's like insane. And then corn sugar, corn syrup, which increases like anger, and also does this thing where it lets you like eat more. And then if you're drinking cheap water, there's no water fountains anywhere anymore. And if you're if you're in a poor neighborhood, God forbid you have to walk anywhere, so now you have to go to the closest place. The grocery store, if these water bottles are stored, I mean, God knows how long they're being shipped. God doesn't even know how long they sit in shelves, in warehouses and trucks and whatnot. And it's water, so it can't go bad, so no one's refrigerating it. So it's just in a hot container going God knows where, just stewing the chemicals out of the plastic that is just cheap plastic, because they have to make 1 million of them. They're disposable, right? And they're getting thinner and thinner and thinner, cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. No one's looking into it. They'll gladly kill your whole family and go to put 200 million in some court filing, some court bank account. Like, oops, Nestle kills 400 million people. Yeah, but it was over 50 years. So, and they paid the settlement. What do you expect them to do? They paid the settlement. Nestle paid the settlement. What could they possibly do? Are you a fascist? Let them sell water. This is America. Freedom of choice. It's like, only of poisons, nothing healthy has gotten cheaper. Has anyone noticed this? Only the bad stuff has gotten cheaper. Everything good is far more expensive. Food, education, cars, transportation, housing, healthcare, childcare, travel of any kind. You want, you want drugs? The weed is, the milligrams of THC is dirt cheap now. So it's not a good situation. So if you're drinking, and that's where all these microplastics come from. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, they're finding them in arteries. They're clogging. They're causing, it takes a long time for them to build up, like maybe a decade or more. But like, as they melt, they're just releasing BPA in your body. You're just getting injected with BPA. And BPA is the most powerful obesity-causing chemical I've ever seen. It's used in standard scientific procedures to expedite obesity. It's that potent. It's like, it. So people are like, dude, just give up, get a real job. I'm like, no, are you out of your mind? I found a way to mass produce sulforaphane. We are going to need this stuff for the next 100 years. Like, dude, we're going to have to, get rid of all the toxic chemicals, which means we have to find them all. We have to find replacements. We have to sue the companies into changing their behavior, change laws, all that stuff. How long is that going to take? Easily 50 years. If we're somewhere, let's say 10 to 50 years. There's just no way we'll do it faster than 10. And you can easily see it taking 30, 40, 50 years. Great. Then there's all the chemicals that are already out in the environment. So hopefully, somewhere in those, by the end of that 50 years, let's say, the worst case scenario, we stop making them, but they're out in the ocean already. They're in the air. They're in the soil. Everywhere. Every square inch of America is tainted with these toxic, poisonous chemicals. Every stream, every human body, every organ, basically, in America, 80% of people, and so then we have to live with these things for a while. The day we stop making them is the day we can wait for them to get out of degrade. I don't know how long that'll take. I have no idea. Hopefully just a few years, but so this whole thing could take 1 or 2 generations to actually clean up the environment. In the meantime, we have to clean up, live and not die and get poisoned, and so we can at least clean up our internal environment. That is what sulforaphane does. It's insane. The more you read up on it, the more you will, your mind will, every paper will blow your mind. You're like, what the fuck? Dude, so sulforaphane is like a natural, pesticide, or what's it called? Herbicide. It they think it thwarts insects that eat these plants. When the plant cell breaks, these two chemicals break free and mix in the insect's mouth and produce sulfur, and a sulfur-like compound, sulforaphane, and it's spicy, it's pungent, it's a defensive molecule, they believe, and it thwarts predation of the plants. For some reason, sulforaphane freaks out our body in a very specific way, from what I understand, and the response is all these genes get turned on to clean up and get rid of this thing. It quickly gets rid of it. It's very quickly broken down. In fact, that's what's so hard. That's why we have to sell it in a powder, and you have to mix it yourself, because you can't. It'll break down in hours. You know what I mean? It's very, especially at room temperature. Anyway, your body gets rid of it, but then the genes are turned on for days, 3 to 4 or 5 days, depending on who you ask or who you are. And because it's turning your genes on through this specific pathway, it basically triggers this thing called the NRF2 pathway, and it takes off. The body takes its governor, and it explodes in your system, and all these cytoprotective genes get activated. 70 cytoprotective genes, and they're all clustered around oxidation response. It's the ARE pathway, I guess, or oxidation response element, or something like that. And so a lot of them, these cytoprotective genes, basically look for oxidizers, and others repair the damage caused by oxidizers, and others remove, flush the, I don't know. There's everything about finding basically chemicals that are damaging your body, don't belong there, getting rid of them, and then dealing with the aftermath. And it's most about just getting rid of them. And you find that once you get rid of them, the body can fix the inflammation it was caused, but they're everywhere constantly all the time that we're so inflamed that, based on your genetic predisposition and your zip code, and your lifestyle, you have a unique set of symptoms caused by the unique, exposure to a cocktail of toxic chemicals. And at the end of the day, getting the mechanism to get rid of them helps you in a different way, helps them in a different way, helps me in a different way. But there's like clusters of, these chemicals that we're all exposed to. And so like getting rid of obesogens is one of the ways it helps you lose weight. But it also helps rebalance the gut biome because of something I couldn't even tell you. But it's like very clearly diminishes the bad bacteria levels, and it increases the good bacteria levels. Like clear as day, strongly, very potently. And so that naturally reduces cravings for shit, carbs and sugar. It ameliorates, it blocks these obesogens, and it helps with insulin and glucose, and the brain can all of a sudden like see all the fat molecules it has because of this hormone called leptin that they release, and now it becomes resensitized to leptin. And so it's like, oh dude, we have all this energy over there, let's just go, it's already prepared. These are chopped logs. Why go into the forest and get wood when we have chopped logs right here? So go harvest less wood. We're gonna use this store is amazing. Look how much wood we have. My God, right? And so fat starts getting browned and burned, so to speak, and caloric intake drops because the body's like, we don't need that many calories. And so it's just like this beautiful blend of mechanisms. But it's amazing how I've come to realize, first working on the equipment to make it, grow it, then the molecule and how to formulate the product, and so learning about the reaction and the enzyme kinetics, and which by the way are my invention, grows the activating enzyme at a 10 times above average activity level. So like the springiness or the number of times it can work before it breaks, ours is like 10 times what you can buy or what is used in common scientific literature. Myrosinase, the enzyme, and which acts on glucoraphanin and creates sulforaphane. And that's why you have to activate it. And so either it's activating in your stomach, but chaotically in the mix with everything else, or you can mix it beforehand and also increase the potency, but slow down the absorption. So it's because it can get spicy if you take the whole thing fast, especially the strong stuff. It'll create a mild discomfort in the stomach, but that's also basically it burning away the bad bacteria, basically, from what I understand. I'm piecing together all these papers that I've been, I hunt through for facts based on a business problem I have, temperature sensitivity of myrosinase enzyme. Oh my God, on and on and on and on. It's a pain in the ass to produce at a high quality. It's a pain in the ass. Let me just put it that way, okay? I've gone bald figuring this out. It took me 20 years to figure out how to not only grow this kind of stuff, but anything like it at any volume humanity needs. That's really what took me so long, was to figure out, okay, how do we fill warehouses with vertical farms? That is, my poor wife. I owe her multiple homes because, she literally met me right when this was taking off in my life. Basically, before that, I committed myself to studying physics so I could solve complex problems because I was absolutely terrified by climate change, senior year of high school. And so since that day, in basically my senior year in high school, I've devoted my life to what has become, using U.S. vertical farms to grow natural drugs, basically a new generation of drug molecules, and it's insane. It's insane. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's absolutely wild. I can't believe I've stumbled into this path, but it was just one step at a time. One step at a time. You're solving one problem. One path dies. That was the worst part. Is it not one continuous path? It was multiple paths with their own paths in between, and it wasn't obvious that the path would continue. I just went on with my life multiple times. I thought this was over, and I was like, no, I ended up learning growth marketing. Everything, now that I think about where I'm at today, this week, everything I've learned along the way is coming into play. I thought I had gone to completely different industries, and it's all coming into play. And it's crazy because back to the beginning, I have to do everything myself right now because no one knows what to do. And so the more of an expert I am in every aspect of the business, the critical levers for the business, the better the business will do, because then as I hire people, I can, so many companies fail because the founder refuses to learn marketing, and they just bring on a marketer and hand it off. And this could be sales, it could be, different critical aspects of the business. And I'm not saying you have to be an expert in marketing the type of thing you're marketing or selling the type of thing you're selling, but the more you are, obviously the better you'll be. And the less you are, the less likely you'll be able to spot bad actors joining your organization. And these are basically people that are just bullshitting their way to paychecks. You can't blame them. You've been there. You've been in that phase in your life. Most people have anyway. I have, for sure. Go do it at someone else's company though, not here. Or a lot of times people don't know. They're just giving it a go. They're really trying, but they're just not the right fit. The founder needs to be able to. That needs to be found out as soon as possible. And who else is more motivated to find that out as soon as possible than the founder of the startup, right? So it behooves them, and it's all upside for them, and it limits their downside. So here we are. The things I don't know how to do, I'm gonna need to hire out, but I'm thinking the path I need to take is to find hires that can teach me, or to find resources that'll teach me along the way. I don't need to be in charge of everything, but I do need to understand so that I can lend a hand at any moment, at any point, anywhere, and boost the founders. We see the business already, and even if we don't see it clearly, the business exists out there, and we have to go and put pieces in the right places for it to catch the business or be most perfectly aligned with some future, the business organization doesn't exist yet. There is an optimal arrangement of its components that changes, for in every day or era or season of the business. And as the market changes, the business must change with it. But there's an optimal organization at any moment of every business component process. And the more accurately the founder can suss out and realign their business to that objective reality, though opaque as it is, the more successful the business grows, the faster it grows, right? There's like an optimal movement to Tai Chi, right? With the energy of the universe, moving with the energy of the universe, and your body is its ability to move. In martial arts, there is an optimal form to every maneuver for maximum effect or what have you. But the effect is desired effect changes moment to moment. You don't always want to attack, you want to, I don't know. So move, defend, block. It's a very trippy thing, and the only person that has enough equity to move things and trim the fat and prune the tree whenever is necessary for the tree to grow as beautifully as possible is the founders, because no one else will ever own 50% of a business, 51%, 60%, whatever the, and in lieu of that, it's the CEO, right? Really, but only an unfireable CEO can truly be free, right? Only a CEO that owns 51% of the business or more can do what is actually necessary. This is happening right now in the business, like you wouldn't believe. Man, am I trimming fat right now, and dead branches. My God. We got some root rot at CFI. God dang. It is infuriating. I've had to fire my co-founder. God bless his soul. God bless his soul. And members of the board need to go. It's just like, dude, if you're not making intros on behalf of your companies you advise every month, you don't belong in startup world. You shouldn't invest in startups. That is, not only is it super valuable to the founder and makes them feel good because they're getting some goddamn positive reinforcement, intros make all the difference. And the funds, the investors that make intros constantly are the funds that do the best. How is this not? And if it's so opaque and not obvious to you, like, right, you don't belong in this asset class. So this is now a new rule on my board of anything. One intro a month, or you can't come to the next meeting. Why am I the only one worried about this business? And the amount of time it takes to do one intro is far less than proportional to the amount of equity you own. It takes 5 seconds, like 5 minutes a month, and 12 intros from 5 to 10 people each. Are you out of your mind? Because every intro leads to an intro. Not every intro, but every intro can lead to a great intro. Everybody knows 100 people. So